Well, you're obviously fierce determination, fiercely independent. But anytime I talk to someone extraordinary, and I consider you to be extraordinary, one question I want to ask you in the hopes of becoming extraordinary, or maybe at the very least inspiring someone else who might be listening or watching to become extraordinary, are what are the qualities that you fell back on? What is it that motivated you? Because I'm sure that there are other people that are in similar circumstances. Certainly, I know lots of people in much softer circumstances who have not gone on to do all the things that you've done. So what kept you motivated? What continues to motivate you?
First of all, I mean, I must say I'm not extraordinary at all, by a long shot. But I think what kept me motivated, what kept me going, there were several things that I think were important to me growing up. One of them was that I felt, I had seen what my mother had gone through, and that made me firmly convinced that I needed to be able to call the shots when I wanted to. In my own life, I wanted to be the person dictating the terms. So that was very important to me. She certainly was a strong female in a culture that did not necessarily always value strong females. And so I think she taught me that it was fine to be alone, and that was not something that very early on, I knew the difference between loneliness and being alone. And I think being alone is a choice that you make. And sometimes, for instance, if you're the only female of color on an entire ship, which is dominated by or is filled with just white men, and you are the chief scientist, which was the situation for me sometimes, then you have made the choice to be alone. And I think that gave me a certain courage. I'd never felt lonely on a vessel, but I knew that I was alone, and that's a bit different. I think there's sort of a dignity that comes with that choice, maybe, of being able to do that on your own. So that's something that I took away. And I think I learned very early in my life not to depend on other human beings, which is to say, not even emotionally. And that doesn't mean I don't like people. I actually like people a lot. And I think, by virtue of what I'm doing now, being an author, especially writing for young people, you don't make a whole lot of money. But I do that because I care, and because I think my words might matter, and I think my words can touch people in a way that nothing else I do can touch people. And to me, writing is an act of compassion. It's a way to sort of increase the compassion and empathy there is in the world. And so I think that's why I write. And I think I learned very early on that those things matter, that compassion matters, that empathy matters, that human beings matter a lot, and you can reach out to them that way, but also that you should never allow another human being to take over your life or your emotions, maybe, or your life. And it was very, my siblings were much older than me, who were out of the house and adults before anything happened to me, before my parents split up, would constantly say all the time, and they still do, 5 minutes into any conversation, if there's anything going wrong, they will cite what happened to me, actually. When, oh, our father split up, oh, our father did this. And I think, you don't even know the half of it. And I will never, ever I've decided that when I was about 8, I will never use my father or any other person. And there are other violent men in my family, though they may not think they are. I will never use them as an excuse for what I am. I will never use them as an excuse for my behavior. I will never allow anything that happened to me to define who I am in a negative way. And so I think, yes, economic hardship that I did face. Yes, I was always the poor cousin. And, then again, I had other people around me who had more, and maybe that itself provides a kind of security in the family. But I think I learned very early that I wasn't going to let those things that other people could see as negative impact me negatively. And I think that's a choice I made. And as you pointed out, one of the things that did happen was that my mother did a lot of work, a lot of charity work in her time. And that's where I met kids, like the kids in the Bridge Home. And so I knew what dire poverty was. And when people here say they grew up very poor, I say sometimes poor now because I've lived in this country for so long. But when they talk about dire poverty, or when they say they grew up in poverty, to me, poverty was not having a roof over your head. Poverty was being hungry. And, when my daughter comes home and says she's hungry, that's not hunger. I mean, it's beyond imagination, the level of hunger, the level of insecurity that some of the children that I got to know faced. And one of the friends that I had came from a very, very different socioeconomic class. He was a Dalit, which I never thought about. Now, thinking back on it, I've realized that he was. And I think just knowing those children and seeing their courage, they were extraordinary. And that made an impact on me. The fact that they could be kind, the fact that they could laugh in spite of all that they had seen, that was extraordinary.